It's Moose and Keith with Marc and Keith Irizarry.
Coming into you on this Monday on the Better Sports Network, and a good Monday morning to one and all. Got a big Monday night football game later on tonight that we'll get into as the Jets are entertaining the Buffalo Bills, and it is overreaction to Monday to what we saw yesterday, first NFL Sunday of the 2023 season. Good morning, Keith. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the New York Giants, the Seattle Seahawks, the Cincinnati Bengals, their seasons are over. Let's stop them from playing football. Let's move on to, let's just relegate them, right? That's what you wanted, overreaction Monday.
Well, that's exactly right. Yes, that's the overreaction that you're looking for. I mean, it's a long NFL season, and you don't want to, you can look at teams and say that maybe there are issues with teams that need to be rectified. The Giants, the interior of the offensive line, the fact that they, once again, we're back to where we were a number of years ago, where if you can't protect it, you can't run it, because the Dallas Cowboys last night had 7 sacks against the Giants in the 40-0 victory. And Daniel Jones, every time he dropped back, was basically running for his life. You can't run an offense and orchestrate an offense, and there was no adjustments defensively over the course of the evening as well. And that's stunning because they've got a really great defensive coordinator in Wink Martindale. You could kind of see, they maybe not necessarily the score, but the Browns beating the Bengals. They played well against them. Zadarius Smith, Myles Garrett on the outside. You had Joe Burrow, who's clearly, you look at his calf injury, is not 100% because he's on the sideline going through exercises to try and make sure that is loose. But still, could you see 23-3? No. Did Deshaun Watson look great? No, he didn't look particularly good. I think the Rams are a terrible football team. Like, I'm stunned. And I tweeted this out yesterday, Keith. I think that's more on Seattle than it is on Los Angeles, that all of a sudden maybe the Rams are going to be particularly good in the NFC West. I was stunned at how bad the Seattle Seahawks played yesterday against the Los Angeles Rams. And stunned by the Giants as well.
Yeah, and I think all of those teams are teams that we should discuss. And let's start with Seattle, because you talked about the stun there. I'll give a shout-out to Kyle Brandt over at NFL Network and on Good Morning Football. He was shouting to the high heavens that the Rams were going to beat the Seahawks this weekend. Said this was a bad matchup for the Seahawks. The Seahawks were going to come in, chests all puffed up, thinking the Rams stink, and they were going to lose. And then this morning, yes, Kyle was reminding us all of what he said on Thursday and Friday of last week. I think there are two things with the Seattle Seahawks. One, I do think that they took the Rams lightly. I think they looked across the way and they said, who's this Nakua guy? Van what? No. Oh, Kyler. So Kupp isn't playing. Oh, Stafford, he's old and can't relate to young people. Yeah, we're going to steamroll them. And then the second part is, I mean, you lived through it being in this New York area. Geno Smith, before last year, had never even been an above average NFL QB. And then last year takes a major step forward, looked awesome. Are we sure that last year wasn't the blip on the radar? Or was he really, like who is Geno Smith? And we don't know. I don't know. Like maybe the Seahawks just aren't going to be that great. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they're not. I mean, I'm surprised that a team led by Carroll would take a team lightly, and maybe you're right. Maybe that because, I mean, maybe it's a case that Geno Smith, NFL Comeback Player of the Year a year ago, is going to regress to what he has been or be the player that he's been the majority of his NFL career, which is underwhelming at the quarterback spot. They led that game at one point in time, 13-7, missed a kick that would have made it 16-7, and then got steamrolled in the second half and got outscored 23-zip. I mean, there were adjustments made by McVay and his staff at halftime that clearly played out. And, Stafford was great, 3 for 334. You mentioned, Puka Nacua was fantastic, 10 catches, 119 yards. It's surprising because I went in with the perception Seattle's a good team. They're home in front of the 12s. That once again they're going to be a playoff contender, a wide open NFC. And you didn't get that at all yesterday, outside of obviously the Cowboys, Niners, and Eagles being a wide open NFC. You didn't get that impression at all from Seattle. You got the impression that there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah. All right. Now let's go back over to your boys. And I'm going to call them your boys because you kind of have a man crush on Joe Burrow. I'm with you. I'm not overreacting on the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not. The Cleveland Browns have kind of owned them over the last couple of years. I think the Browns are going to be better. You and I both talked about that a lot this summer, that the Browns are going to be a better team and could potentially even be a contending team. And Joe Burrow looked like a rusty quarterback. He looked like someone who hasn't been on the field for real in months. And that's kind of true because he's been out for the last 6 weeks with a calf injury.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland had 10 quarterback hits. They had 2 sacks on the course of the afternoon. Yeah, Joe Burrow looked rusty. I mean, he was 14 of 31 for 82 yards. I mean, he was dreadful. Joe Mixon, 11 carries for 56 yards. And it's not like you got this superlative performance from, Deshaun Watson. I mean, every time I looked up and, was watching that game, and I was over at FanDuel yesterday watching the games, Watson was bouncing the ball to receivers.
Yeah.
He didn't look particularly good, didn't look particularly sharp. But I know the rain was falling down in Cleveland as that game was going along. But it wasn't like they were playing in a monsoon. So it's not like Watson looked really, really good. Jim Schwartz has done a nice job as defensive coordinator for the Browns. Not going to overreact and be like the season's already over. Got to remember, I mean, Cincinnati started last year 0-2 before they started getting going. So let's not overreact to what the Bengals potentially could be this year based on a week 1 performance yesterday against the Cleveland Browns, which left a lot to be desired, and they lose that game 24-3.
Can we overreact about one team, though? I want to do it. So
Sure.
I'm going to overreact about one team. And it's one team that you gave out, and it's one team that I have a player that I've had affinity for the last year. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers might stink. And I know the Niners are really good, but we'll wait and see what the Deontay Johnson injury is too with Pittsburgh and play that one out also. But Kenny Pickett, everyone told us during the preseason that Pickett had figured it out. And what I mean by everyone is like the people who are supposed to know the NFL, like they cover the NFL day in and day out. These are your experts. And anyone told us that Kenny Pickett was turning a corner. Listen, the Niners are excellent. The Niners may end up winning the Super Bowl. Who knows? And the Niners have one of the top 5-7 defenses in the NFL. But he looked like a deer in headlights. Najee Harris, I mean, he only carried the ball, 6 times? But Najee didn't do much except for one run. Pickens didn't do much. That's both of our guys. Like, the Steelers stunk. And I will overreact right now because maybe I'll eat crow and they'll go 9-8 again. And Tomlin will do what he always does and never goes under 500. But if I woke up this morning and I was Dave Sharapan and I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I'm worried.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned. But I do have confidence in Tomlin and the staff. I don't know if I'd necessarily say coming off yesterday, I'm surprised by their performance. I liked them plus the 2.5. I talked about the fact that I liked them plus the 2.5, as did a lot of people. It's not
Yeah, you were not alone.
Nope. And the 49ers just drubbed them. I mean, that was a statement game by the San Francisco 49ers. Purdy was very, very good, very economical, throw for 220 and 2 touchdowns. McCaffrey, as long as he stays healthy, we know how productive he's going to be at the running back spot. You've got Samuels and Ayuk defense with Bosa back. We know how good that defense is. I mean, that was you were looking for a statement game from a team that probably showed off or vented their frustration from Purdy getting hurt in that NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, they took it out on the Steelers yesterday. And, I mean, that game wasn't even as close as the score would tell you. I mean, 30-7, and that's a blowout, but it could have been particularly worse. The 49ers were just that dominant. And you have every right to be concerned about Pittsburgh. I would say I'd heat a little bit because I have confidence in Tomlin, who, doesn't know as a head coach how to have a losing season.
I felt like I needed to overreact about one team. That was the one team I feel like it's overreaction Monday. I want to give in to a little peer pressure here. Okay, Moose, I'm going to overreact on the Steelers.
No, I get it. And listen, the Steelers
little tongue in cheek there.
Well, no, I get it. But the Steelers might have that year in which they really underperform. I mean, The Giants, last night I went to bed at halftime. I was exhausted, had a long weekend, a lot of work, Rutgers late, then early show
It was a
yesterday, and
late
then over.
Rutgers game for you, right?
Yeah, doing a number of things over
Yeah.
at FanDuel, hanging out there and stuff like that. So got home and flipped the Giant game on, and that game kicked off at like 8:20, and that game was over by 9 o'clock. I mean, it was basically over. The Giants couldn't protect anybody. The interior of the offensive line was an unmitigated disaster. The performance, people are going to go out there and rake Daniel Jones over the coals. He was not good. Special team. There was no phase of the game last night from the Giants as they lost to the Cowboys 40-0. The Cowboys, as Micah Parsons said, put everybody on notice. And if you want to wake up on this Monday morning and say, well, listen, the Giants are going to be bad this year, well, they gave you every indication of that being the case. Now, sometimes when teams land on your schedule is important. The Giants go out to Arizona to take on the Cardinals this week. So that's important because the Cardinals barely lost to a dreadful Washington team yesterday, and Arizona's not particularly good. I would expect the Giants to bounce back in a big time way next Sunday when they take on Arizona. With all of that being said, though, that was a pathetically bad performance by the Giants last night.
Giants look terrible. Cowboys look great. And there's got to be something in the middle is what I always say about a game like that, because the New York Giants, most people believe, will be battling for a playoff spot. The Dallas Cowboys, most people believe, will win a playoff game this year, maybe more. The Dallas Cowboys last night looked like the best team in the NFL, right? Like them and the Niners were probably the most dominant performances of all teams yesterday, of teams that you think might make runs, right? I don't know what to expect from the Dallas offense. I mean, honestly, they probably should have scored more. CeeDee had a drop, wasn't it? There was a tight end drop or two. Like they could have scored more if they wanted. But that Dallas defense was flying everywhere. Now, on the flip side, the Giants. I don't think the Giants are as bad as they showed yesterday. I thought they did look a little lifeless, which scares you, right? Like that's surprising that a Brian Daboll team would be lifeless at times in a season opener on your home field. But I'm not going to, as you said, rake over the coals Daniel Jones. He didn't play well, but also literally he would snap the ball and everyone was in his face. So maybe there's an indictment on the offensive line. And didn't Thomas get hurt too? So now we got to figure out what his injury is.
Yes.
On the offensive line. So,
yes.
I mean, there's the Giants have issues. But it's an overreaction for me. I'm not gonna overreact on that.
No, I get it. The Giants got issues, and they're going to have to rectify those issues and see exactly what the significance of some of the injuries last night. And Jones did not look good at all. Let's throw a couple bouquets. How about to Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into Minnesota and knocking off the Vikings? The Brian Flores Minnesota Vikings defense, not great. Especially in game situations, 3rd and long, the corners dropping way off the receiver, making easy catches. As you saw that completion late to Chris Godwin. Mayfield played well. I mean, Justin Jefferson did his thing. Cousins, Jordan Addison flashed in the game for Minnesota. They scored some points, but unfortunately, when you looked at it, a team that was the Cardiac Kids 11-0 in games decided by 7 points or less a year ago. Well, that was not the case week 1 this year. And the football gods were not shining on the Minnesota Vikings as Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield go into Minnesota and beat the Vikes.
Buccaneers are not supposed to win this game, right? Baker Mayfield's supposed to fall flat on his face. Mike Evans is angry about his lack of money. Chris Godwin, who knows what's going to be? Rashad White, is he a real running back? The offensive line is in tatters. The defense, who knows what's going to happen with the Buccaneers? All they did was just fight. Baker Mayfield had the one run on, it was the 4th quarter. I know I had it on the smaller screen. He had the run to the outside, gets the first down, starts pointing, flexing a little bit, and it just kind of like energized that team just in general. You gave the bouquets. I'm going to give like the sour milk. Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins, and do with that as you will, but he'll give you the 300 yards. How does Justin Jefferson only catch the ball twice in the second half? Like, if you just go on the box score, Justin Jefferson was worth the price of admission. He had almost 10 catches and over 100 yards, and he's awesome. You can't let this guy only get 2 catches in the second half if you're the Minnesota Vikings and think you're going to win this game. So you gave bouquets to that's a good one. We could do that. The bouquets versus the sour milk.
Oh,
Who do you
yes.
give bouquets to, and who do you give sour milk to? I like that.
Got to give another bouquet. How about to the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love? 245 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. They go into Chicago. Doesn't matter who's quarterback in the Green Bay Packers. They own the Chicago Bears. Win that game 38-20. Matt Deutsch's guy, Justin Fields, 216 passing yards, a touchdown, a pick, and 59 yards on the ground. Not exactly the most productive.
I'll give it to you. He gets the
one.
sour milk.
Yes, he does get the sour milk. As do the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. You had no Christian Watson in the game for Green Bay. He was out with the hamstring injury, and still, I'll tell you, there were some bad throws yesterday by Jordan Love. Guy could play. I mean, he showed it yesterday. He could play. Romeo Doubs had himself a game. Maybe he ends up being a fantasy breakout star this year for the Green Bay Packers. Maybe it ends up just being week 1 or until Christian Watson does get back. Aaron Jones had a big time touchdown run. There's a lot to like about what you saw from Green Bay yesterday, and the Packers showed everybody, well, they're better than the Bears, and life is going to be, at least for 1 week, they're going to be okay without Aaron Rodgers.
And here's the thing about Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears is that the Bears went out and got Justin Fields, DJ Moore. They went out and said, we're going to build an offense so the Fields can be successful. And again, I'm not going to overreact about this one, but Justin Fields looked very much like he did last year. He ran the ball well. He throws the ball average to below average. He didn't look like he took any step forward at all. So now if you tell me 10 weeks from now that Green Bay is one of the 10 best defenses in the NFL and that's what's happening for Justin Fields, okay, we're having a different conversation. I don't think that's going to happen. If Justin Fields is looking like this 2-3 weeks from now, there are going to be questions about how good Justin Fields really is as an actual quarterback in the NFL and not just someone who's very athletic and can run around. Justin Fields and Daniel Jones, to me, looked very similar yesterday. They both are guys that when the plays break down, they can run and make things happen with their legs. Neither of them looked rather adept throwing the ball.
Yeah, I think Jones is a better throw than Fields, but we'll find out. But yeah, I understand. Listen, Daniel Jones got paid in the offseason, needs to be better, and didn't get much help last night. 2 more games before we take our first time out here on Moose and Keith on this Monday. Number 1, Philadelphia Eagles didn't exactly look like the Philadelphia Eagles of a year ago. They don't have to. Sometimes you just need to grind out like W's. Yeah, a little bit. At the pick 6 from Darius Slay. Offensively didn't really look dynamic at all. Remember, they replaced both coordinators, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator from the team a year ago. 5 new starters on I mean, there's changes when you look at that Philadelphia Eagle team. Listen, it's great to win when you don't play your game. Sirianni talked about that after the game, saying that there's some things that we need to clean up. Patriots got better as that game went along. I thought it was kind of an ugly week 1 game.
Yeah, you know what? I was texting you during this game about Mac Jones. We were having some fun with it because you were clearly higher than Mac Jones in life than I am. But Mac Jones made some good throws in the 3rd and the 4th quarter. He looked every bit of a starting quarterback in the 3rd and the 4th quarter. So I think he's fine. I think you could win games with Mac Jones. I'm not going to slam him here. I thought the Patriots fought really hard. And I thought the Eagles, you're right, they look like a team that hasn't played together. There's a lot of new faces and a lot of new places there on that roster. So Eagles grind out a win. Good for them. Up 16-0. Probably should have won that game by a lot more, but you take that hard-fought 25-21.
Game of the day out in Los Angeles, Chargers and Dolphins. Tua was fantastic. Tyreek Hill, unbelievable. Tua throws for 466 yards and 3 touchdowns. Hill, 11 catches, 215 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Don't understand the defense that the Chargers were playing at times. You knew when the Chargers kicked the field goal late to put them up by 4, when they didn't convert that and make it a touchdown, make it what would have been an 8-point lead at that point in time, right? Go up 38-30. You knew that was going to come back to haunt them, and it did. And Miami goes down the field. They score the touchdown to Tyreek Hill. Then Vic Fangio calls the perfect blitz at the right time, sacks Justin Herbert on the big 4th and long there late, and the Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel go into Los Angeles. And the big question about Tua has always been health. If he's able to stay on the field, Tua is going to be remarkably productive, and the Miami Dolphins have given him a lot of the skill set players that he had at Alabama, not exactly by name, but guys that fit the bill, speed guys, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. They've got playmakers on the outside. McDaniel's an unbelievable play caller, and the Los Angeles Chargers, once again, you look at their roster, and they've got Khalil Mack and Bosa. When they need to get pressure at the big time spot when they need it most, they can't do it. And that secondary got absolutely torched and embarrassed.
We forget, or I mean, you and I don't. I mean, Tua was great last year when he was healthy. The Dolphins were great last year when he was healthy. They were 7-1 when he was healthy 4 games. Tyreek Hill probably could have, caught over 2,000 yards last year, and he'll do that in 10 games this year if he plays like this. That offense, and I don't know if they're like that offense, the Tua-led offense is virtually unstoppable when those 3, I'll just say those 3 are healthy. And Raheem Mostert he looked nice yesterday too.
Yeah.
It's
fun. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's a fun offense, and the Chargers, they're going to score a lot of points as well. They really are. But
Joe Burrow is your guy. All off season, you kept telling me that if Tua was healthy, you were giving out lots of Dolphin love. Is there a chance that 8 games from now, you have a bigger bromance for Tua than Burrow?
Maybe. You never know. I love it. Tua's easy to root for, though.
Yeah.
He really is. I mean, there's nothing. I just don't. I have serious reservations about him staying healthy. I hope he does. Yeah. And give Tyreek Hill credit after the game. He was asked about it and said, guys, I've been telling you, Tua's a dog. He can make all the throws. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing. And he loves them. And I think the Dolphin fans should love him. And it was an unbelievable performance yesterday by Tua Tagovailoa. Got to give a little bit of love for our guys getting the game, and all the Raider fans out there going into Denver, beating the Broncos. Jimmy Garoppolo throws for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. The big scramble late on the 3rd down conversion, and then they iced the clock. Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, the Denver Broncos. Their era begins with a big fat 1-point loss yesterday to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
There you go. But Raider Nation, alive and well. We'll come back. Big Monday night game tonight. Jets taking on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. The debut in the regular season of Aaron Rodgers for Gang Green. We'll get into that next. He's Keith Arizari. I'm Marc Malusis. It's Moose and Keith with you right here. Better Sports Network.
Like Devon Levi started off in the friend zone, and now he could possibly be wife material. So it is exceptionally hard to trust a rookie goalie in the NHL. The kid is what? He's 21. Okay. And he is going to the Buffalo Sabres. But we've all agreed that the Buffalo Sabres are at least a somewhat better hockey team on paper. Again, it's hard to trust a rookie goalie. We've seen future Hall of Fame goalies like, Fleury in his first year struggle, right? Carey Price in his first year struggle. It is tough for goalies to come in and have success. That being said, nobody outside of maybe a Buffalo sports fan can tell me who the 2 goalies on their roster are, because I didn't know until this morning, until I was reminded that it was Eric Comrie and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And I was like, okay, well, he has the crease to himself. So all he can do is lose it. That's all he can do. Buffalo is going to be a fun team to watch, which means maybe Devon Levi ends up in what I call the Martin Jones syndrome, which is a goals against average is pretty up there. Save percentage is not very good, but he's going to finish with 35 wins because he's just going to play a lot. And it's going to be that back and forth hockey. The Atlantic Division is not very good, right? There are some teams that are going to regress. So there's opportunities here for Buffalo to do well. And I think his over-under on wins is set at 24.5. So again, there's a lot of things that I may not trust about him. But as a 13th goalie off the board, and I think that is a reach at 13. I think a lot of people have him farther back than that. So he may be 13 on NHL.com's list, but you may end up and show up in your Yahoo or your ESPN draft, and they haven't ranked probably outside of the top 20. So I would have no issue as a second goalie going with Levi, because who's taking his spot? Nobody. And volume at one point, if you're in a league that doesn't penalize you for losses, if you're in a league that rewards saves and save bonuses for daily, DraftKings does, he has all that working for him. So if it doesn't work out, all right, fine. Then you can go and pick up whoever is there. But it is his net to lose. I understand the risk. I will definitely take, because that's how you win championships, right? You got to take risks to win them. If you're safe, you're going to finish, eliminated in the first round and you had a good time. Or you can try to win the championship on draft day.
It's Moose and Keith with Marc Malusis and Keith Irizarry.
Yes, sir, it is. Back here on a Monday morning. Start a free 7-day trial. Fantasy Alarm All-Pro subscription. Get all the Week 2 DFS content and your picks for free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/NFL. Moose, Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football tonight. Yes, Jets, Bills, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers. The Bills are 2-point favorites. The line has ticked down a little bit. The total in the game is sitting at 45.5. Keith, when you look at tonight's Monday night game, what do you like?
All right, so my head is telling me that the Bills win, but everything else is telling me that the Jets win. So I think I'm going to avoid picking a side here. I got some player props that I'm going to look at in just a second. Who do you think wins tonight?
I like the Jets in the game. I'm going to be a homer. Okay. I like the Jets. I think now listen, some of my week 1 prognostications weren't all that great, weren't all that on target, but it was a tough week. It was. So licking the wounds a little bit. But I'm going to stick with the Jets. I think the team, the expectations coming into the year, I think defensively they're going to be really, really good. I think they're going to be a top 3 unit in the NFL this year. We'll see if they can be historically great, what DJ Reed talked about. I think the offense is going to be good enough, and I don't know exactly where this version of the Buffalo Bills is right now, especially without Von Miller on defense, questions along the offensive line. I'd be surprised if this is – I don't think the Jets are going to lay an egg. I don't think the Bills will either. I think it's going to be a really competitive game that comes down to a drive or a possession or a turnover late in the game. I'll take the Jets. I'll take them plus the 2, and I'll take them on the money line.
All right, so let's say I agree with you there. Then my first player prop kind of works for you. I like Josh Allen under 250.5 passing yards. Minus 113 on FanDuel was the best number I could find, best price I could find anywhere. There were a few other books that had some different ones, like 249.5, but then you have to lay a little bit more juice. I think the Jets defense is going to do enough to stifle Josh Allen. I almost would look at Josh Allen to throw a pick as well tonight. I think that could happen. Take a look at your books and see if there's an interception prop that would tickle your fancy there. So I'll take Josh Allen under on his passing yards. And then if we're going to add more for your New York Jets pick tonight, I'll go Garrett Wilson to get over 68.5 receiving yards. I've seen some books have it at 69.5, some at 70.5. I'm going to play it safer, go minus 125 on DraftKings. FanDuel had it at 69.5. I think at minus 115. And a couple of other books that aren't available in my neck of the woods had it at like 70.5. I just look back at Garrett Wilson when Moose was playing quarterback in week 9 against the Bills. Garrett Wilson had 8 catches, 92 yards. And then in week 14, Brian Burns, our producer, was actually playing quarterback for the New York Jets. And Garrett Wilson had 6 catches and 78 yards. So I think Aaron Rodgers is better than Moose and Burnsy at quarterback. I think.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a little bit better than both I or Burns would be at the quarterback position. Got a question from Getting the Game in our chat session. Who's more productive fantasy-wise tonight, Dalvin Cook or James Cook?
All right, so I want to pull up, here's while we do this, I want to pull up my trusty app that we used all year last year, BetStamp, okay? So BetStamp allows you to look at all the different books and all the different props, every game line, everything. I just want to double check this. So Dalvin Cook, because Vegas is usually pretty good about this, right? Let's almost cheat. Let's have a cheat sheet. All right, so Dalvin Cook's rushing yards on most books is set at 48.5, okay? Moose, remember that number, 48.5?
48.5.
Yes, for him. And James Cook, his rushing yards is set at 40.5 at most books, some at 42.5. So Vegas is right. We go Dalvin. He's going to have more.
Yeah, I would think it's probably Dalvin Cook more than James Cook because I think the Jets want to try and run it a little bit more than the Buffalo Bills. The only caveat to that is how do the Jets use Breece Hall? That's the other question you have. Who's questionable? I get it, but coming off the ACL injury from a year ago, how do the Jets use Breece Hall, and what exactly is the role for Dalvin Cook and the Jets? But I'd agree with you. I think night one, I'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable with Dalvin as compared to James when you're looking at the matchup tonight. I like the Jets. You're on the Jets as well?
I'm slight lean Jets. Slight. I'm not.
Jets.
Yeah, I don't think I would bet my money on the Jets to win. I will enjoy the game. I'll bet some props.
Alan Seslowsky from RotoWire is going to join the program next. He's Keith. I'm Moose. It's Moose and Keith on a Monday right here. An Overreaction Monday on the Better Sports Network.
Better Sports Network. Collectible moments.
Everybody up here at U.S. Cellular. Sox 5 runs, 6 hits. The 2-1 to Bartlett. Swing, chop to short. Ramirez has it, throws. Burley picks a perfect game. His second no-hitter. People going crazy here at U.S. Cellular. He's mobbed by his teammates. A perfecto.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right up, 1 second left. What a play by Bird. Bird stole the imposing pass. Laid it up to DJ. DJ laid it up and in. And Boston has a 1-point lead with 1 second left.
Out of the I formation on first down. Peterson to carry, looking for running room on the right side, has it to the 25, across the 30, across the 35, and out of bounds at the 40-yard line. Adrian Peterson has just gone over 2,000 yards for the season, the 7th man in NFL history to cross the 2,000-yard mark.
Well, a thundering ovation for number 66, Mario Lemieux.
Just the emotion I'm sure Mario is feeling in this place. You don't appreciate something until it's gone, and it's so great to have Mario back.
Yager turns around. Over to Lemieux. Mario Lemieux, his first goal in his comeback here tonight at the Mellon Arena. And the Penguins lead 3-0, and he is smiling like a butcher's dog. Mario Lemieux.
Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. The Bears have scored, but the Bands are out on the field.
Pearson moves in front of the STP does. Petty comes back to the inside. They almost touch as they move down low in the banking. You're going to be side by side as they exit the bank and head for the finish line.
Richard Petty goes back in front. They both spin. They're in the wall. Petty is sliding, slamming into the wall. He's coming down toward the finish line. Will he make it? Pearson is still running. The winner is car number 21. An amazing finish. Richard Petty's car demolished in the front end, as well as car number 21. An unbelievable finish, a terrible crash. David Pearson has won the Daytona 500. Leitner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Leitner has hit the bucket at the buzzer! Pitched by Downing, swinging, there's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
The most valuable player is Magic Johnson. 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. He starts at center, plays forward and guard, and leads the Los Angeles Lakers to a world championship 123-107 over Philadelphia.
Whether you collect sports memorabilia, fantasy championships, or winning bet slips, talk about it on Better Sports Network. It's Moose and Keith with Marc Malusis and Keith Irizarry.
Good Monday to one and all. Alan Seslowsky joins us now, RotoWire. And happy to have Alan aboard with us. Alan, good morning, brother. How are you?
Good to see you guys again, man. During that last commercial break, they're playing a lot of these like iconic announcers. I'm curious, who do you guys, Keith, who do you think is in your opinion, the best play-by-play guy all time?
All time is rough, but my favorite is Mike Breen.
Okay, that's rock solid. That's good.
I think he's flawless.
Moose?
Yeah, I would say, I think you got to put Marv on that list. No,
yeah.
I mean, Breen's great. I'm like Mike's awesome. He's great. I think Marv deserves a lot of love. I think about Keith. Like when I think about a big college football moment growing up, I think Keith Jackson.
Ooh,
yeah.
Keith Jackson was fantastic. Brent was very, very good. Like you're thinking about the all-time greats where setting a tone for it being a big game and you just hear that voice. How about yourself, Alan?
I mean, I'm an Al Michaels guy.
Yeah.
And for the second chair, Bill Raftery, as growing up watching the Nets on Sports Channel in New York. I mean, Raftery was just, send it home, big fella. I mean,
yes.
I mean, send it home, Jerome. So, those are my guys.
I mean, obviously, if you go baseball, Vin Scully, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah, no doubt, no question about it. Alan, how was your week one fantasy perspective? How was your first NFL Sunday?
Fantasy football is a living hell. What are you talking? Like no one ever performs correctly. All the takes I thought were going to be locks, disappointed. All my guys get injured. I mean, you know how fantasy football is. You look at week one, you're filled with optimism, and then Christian Watson scratch before week one. Deontay Johnson hamstring in the middle of the game. Oh, Lamar Jackson, he's my pick to outside of the big three. Oh, goose egg. I mean, I'm panicking, but I'm trying to have all of the RotoWire subscribers calm down a little bit, guys, because what do we know? That these guys, all the star quarterbacks, they don't play in the preseason anymore. So week one is this like quasi warm-up preseason game for them. So the stars are going to be fine. Joe Burrow is going to be fine for fantasy football. Same with Lamar Jackson. Let's see what happens next week. So I try not to panic, except when it's my own teams.
Give us a few guys that maybe people should panic. And I'll throw out a name like a Justin Fields, who our boss here, better boss, in one draft, literally drafted him in the first round and said that Justin Fields will be the number one scoring fantasy player in all of the fantasy landscape. Okay. So is he someone we should panic about? And then add anybody else maybe that you have.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Fields, the reason that you shouldn't panic in fantasy football is because they're going to get back to doing what he does best. He has the quote cheat code for fantasy football, and he could do it with his legs. The panic part is you probably were expecting a jump forward with the passing and sit there, and we didn't see any of that. It looks like the same old Bears. There was like weird Bear optimism this year, right? In the offseason, there's been Lions optimism, which kind of, I mean, sure they won, but it wasn't great. So with Justin Fields, that is I wouldn't worry about it. He's at least going to be a par. Now, if you took him in the first round in a single quarterback league, that's a dead pick because you didn't need you didn't need to do that. You could have go ahead.
You know what just happened? Moose, Alan and I are no longer going to be on Better Sports Network. There's a quick phone call being made by all right, listen, Burns, don't book Alan anymore. And, if Keith needs to take a few days off, that's fine.
Hey, listen, we are truth sayers here. No fake news. We're unfiltered. But yeah, no, if the bosses are unhappy with that, it's a great pick. It's going to pay off.
Fantastic pick. I agree.
Alan, to Atlanta. Keith and I talked about when they drafted him. I'm not knocking Bijan Robinson. I'm just not. Algier is a good player. Like, he's a good running back. And you saw that yesterday for the Atlanta. So what are you concerned if you drafted Bijan early of just how that two running backs are going to work down in Atlanta and how much love Algiers is going to get from Arthur Smith?
Yeah, I would not be worried. Bijan should still pay off as a first-round pick. I mean, what do you have? 6 targets yesterday. Had that nice little juke move to get into the end zone. Look great. And I'll give you a recent example of how this could pay off. Do you remember a couple of years ago, Mark Ingram on the Saints and Alvin Kamara, both top 10 backs every week, top 8 backs. So this is going to be a situation where they're going to run the ball 580 times. I mean, did you see Desmond Ridder yesterday? They might up that to 680 by the end of the week right here. So I think that both of these guys could pay off. So Bijan, he might, he could pay off and, land again, use a golf term, a par, be a late first round pick. But the guy who's going to be the value is the guy you took in the 10th round of your draft, Tyler Algier. And so they can both pay off. And if you have them both, you could probably start them both next week and expect double-digit fantasy points from both.
Yeah, Alan, I'm with you on this one. I actually think that if you look at the Atlanta Falcons offense, you're probably worried about Drake London. I mean, the zero yesterday from London is not something that we all expected, right? I mean, we crunch all these numbers all off season. We're like, Drake London's going to take a step forward, and he didn't because I don't know, maybe they don't have a quarterback. Speaking of wide receivers with goose eggs, let's go back over to Cincinnati. And Moose and I talked about this. Joe Burrow is going to be fine. T. Higgins is going to be fine? Question mark?
Yeah, I mean the targets were there, right? The targets,
eight
eight targets.
Yeah.
You couldn't do 8 targets, 0 catches if you tried in the NFL. I mean, this actually took effort to put up a goose egg. Now, again, this is cheap fantasy advice, but if anybody wants out of T. Higgins, right? So to say Puka Nacua, who had 15 targets for the Rams yesterday, I will trade Puka Nacua for T. Higgins if anybody wants to do that trade. Just at me in my DMs, okay? Point is that nobody's selling low here, right? Now, if it happens, that's what's so great, guys, about in fantasy football, taking these wide receivers in round 1, 2, and 3. When they have bad outings, you start them again. Now, if this would have happened with Treylon Burks, the second-year receiver on the Tennessee Titans, you're scared to start him, and then you put him on your bench, and what happens? He has an 8 for 80 and a touchdown. Then you put him in your lineup, and he goes 0 again. So that's what's great about these early picks is that they have a proven track record. We're not scared. T. Higgins would have to have bad fantasy outings for 4 weeks for us to even think about taking him out of our fantasy football lineups.
All right. What about if you look at it now post-draft, tight ends? The fact that Kelsey was not there Thursday night, Andrews didn't play for Baltimore. Are those that waited to draft tight ends the real winners here?
The answer is yes, because I mean, think about all the name brand tight ends this week. Kelsey didn't play. Andrews didn't play. Waller was, TJ Hawkinson was modest. Dallas Goedert, 0. Right now, those things are happening with the tight end position. But when you spend up on a fantasy pick to take one of these guys, that's not what you expect. The guy who finished as tight end 2 this week was Hayden Hurst. This is not a surprise to us. We had friends of ours had boots on the ground in Panthers camp. The one takeaway that they had was when they told us, our friends over at Roster Watch, they said, this offense is going to run through Hayden Hurst. We saw that in week 1. He's got the, 5 catches, 40-plus yards, and a touchdown. That's going to continue. If Hayden Hurst is on your waiver wire and your league mates think, oh, this is going to be unpredictable, I would put a little extra of your fake fab money to get Hayden Hurst. He's the one that we're always looking for that goes outside the top 20 that can finish in the top 8.
Let's go further in that. Everyone wakes up today, and obviously the waiver wires really get started tomorrow, after Monday Night Football. How about the Rams running back situation? Is Kyren Williams the guy, and should people be throwing a fair amount of fab there, or are the Rams just terrible and it won't matter?
Remember, Kyren Williams, going back to his draft year, was considered the 3rd best running back in this class until the combine, where he tested poorly. Then he had an uneven, not great rookie season, but all of the camp reports to late in the summer were that Kyren Williams looks like a different player. He looks like that player that we saw at Notre Dame. I think Kyren Williams and Josh Kelly of the Chargers should be the 2 most aggressively bid on running backs. Now, Cam Akers may not pay off now as a 5th-round pick, and he's still going to be the 1A, but Kyren Williams, I think, is for real. He's going to have some of that pass-catching upside, and this happens every year in the NFL, guys. We think that there's a few teams are the league doormat, and they end up being good. Last year at this time, we were thinking Seattle was a complete garbage dumpster fire, and they end up making the playoffs. That could be the Rams, the Cooper Cup-less Rams. So yes to Kyren Williams. I would be aggressive picking him up 20% of your fab budget.
All right. What other players, when you attack the waiver wire tomorrow, Alan, are you looking at that you think people should be Hayden Hurst, Williams with the Rams, anybody else that you're going to be trying to attack there on the waiver wire?
Yeah, I have a sneaky ad for everybody, right? Deontay Johnson, that injury from the wide receiver on the Pittsburgh Steelers looked ugly, man. It looked like he was grasping, should be out a few weeks. I believe that nobody's going to think about the second-year speedster Calvin Austin, who caught all 6 of his targets for only 37 yards, but that's good because you're going to get him cheap. Now, it looks like they trust him. They aggressively drafted him, even though it was a day 3 pick last year. He missed the season last year because of an injury. He was the fastest wide receiver at the combine. They are going to need him while Deontay's out. Calvin Austin, $0 bid on your waiver wire. He could end up being an every week starter for you.
Wow. Stay in Pittsburgh. Reason to worry about Najee?
Look, when you drafted Najee Harris in the 3rd round of your fantasy football draft, you weren't expecting Nick Chubb or Saquon Barkley. It was a volume play. You're going to have good weeks. You're going to have bad weeks. But, we heard it all summer long that there was going to be some form of a backfield split. This was a complete disaster game for the Steelers. It's like you take Najee Harris. You were never pumped to do it. You're just throwing him in there because he's a volume play. So you got what you paid for.
Alan, last one for me would be, how about those that had shares of, Barkley with the Giants, Daniel Jones with the Giants, Darren Waller with the Giants after what we saw last night. Offensive
Sell them
line,
all. Get them.
offensive line was utterly hideous. Now, it's a credit to the Cowboys defense because they've got a lot of talent up front led by Micah Parsons, who's as good as it gets. But what about if fantasy owners looking at that big fat goose egg that the Giants put up last night in the raindrops out at MetLife in the 40-0 blanking by the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, we try not to overreact or panic in fantasy football. And if you had a positive view of Barkley and Darren Waller, you should maintain that. I mean, it's the magnitude of this disaster, which is why we're even thinking like that. I'm going to confidently roll these guys out every week. You know, the main ones. Obviously, there's going to be some of the ancillary pieces. Daniel Jones, you're not starting him until you see it now. If you're in a single quarterback league where you just start one quarterback, that's fine. But when you're in a super flex league and you're like your other option is like Sam Howell or Baker Mayfield, now you have to start thinking about it. I think the real takeaway, guys, is be careful starting your fantasy players against Dallas. Not so much an indictment on the Giants.
There you go. Alan,
maybe Dallas and the Niners are two teams you got to be careful of.
Alan, who do you like tonight, Jets, Bills?
Oh, come on. I'm a Jets fan. I'm from Long Island, and I'm taking Jets money line all night. And the other prop I like, 30-1, first score of the game, Jets TD on a nailing Josh Allen, scoop 6.
Love it.
Wow.
There you go. Scoop 6, 30-1.
Wow.
Alan Seslowsky from RotoWire. Alan, you're the best, brother. Enjoy the Jet game tonight, all right?
I always love hanging with you guys. Talk soon.
Strong Island.
I love that. That's fantastic. That's great.
That's fantastic.
I like that. I'd love to see a scoop
I
and
need
score.
to find what app site that's on.
I wonder what were the odds last night on a Dallas. Like, they don't have that prop, right? Blocked field goal touchdown.
I mean, I don't believe so, but every site has different things. It's pretty cool. Like, that's why it's, and I know we're going to take a break, but that's why it's this gambling world has become so much fun because you have to do your work, and you also have to have many different books. You need to be able to find different things. I think I don't remember if I said this last week to you, Moose, but like BetMGM, who sponsors our show for MLB Network, Better's Eye, they just started adding in walks. So not me personally, but people can wager on batters to walk in a game. So Friday, my walk-off winner, my best bet was Yordan Alvarez to get a walk against Blake Snell. He walked 3 times in that game. It was plus 115. It was fantastic.
Last night, but yeah, so it had to be similar to what Alan just mentioned about the Jets because he's talking about a defensive touchdown. It would probably be about 30-1.
Yeah, I don't know where you'd find that, but that's the fun part about this. If you can find those little fun things, you can make a killing.
Come back, a little more money, more problems. Those that got paid that struggled on Sunday. We'll get into it. He's Keith Arizari. I'm Mark Malusis. It's a Monday edition of Moose and Keith right here on the Better Sports Network.
The Detroit Lions select Sam Laporta, tight end, Iowa.
Had to go with your boy Sam Laporta there to pair with TJ Hawkinson.
Sammy, I couldn't double down on rookie tight ends. I think that would take it. That's taking it a little too far.
This could be one of the most exciting rookie tight end classes in a while, just based on the archetypes of these guys, of the Dalton Kincaids and the Sam Laportas. Obviously, Green Bay drafted 2 themselves. With Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. So after Kincaid, I would say is probably the consensus with tight ends. Like, who do you like as far as the best ball, like end of best ball? Do you like Laporta, or is there anybody else you like more?
I do like Laporta. We're looking for guys that can be a top 2 target on their team. So any path, any argument you could make, right? So you can make the argument that Dalton Kincaid is going to be a top 2 target with after Stephon Diggs. You can make an argument that with Jameson Williams suspended, now Sam Laporta is just going to play straight up wide receiver. He looks like a wide receiver. Why can't he line up out wide at split end, right? It's like Marvin Jones and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would also throw another name in the ring, and I don't mind, since we're doing this for the fans, for the kids. He's still on the board. Luke Musgrave on your Packers. They're not super loaded at wide receiver. We like the guy Reed they drafted, but you never know. So why can't Luke Musgrave be a big slot? In fact, they drafted 2 tight ends, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. Tucker Kraft is more of an inline guy. They might just go 2 tight ends right away. Tucker Kraft inline, Luke Musgrave in the slot. Why can't he be a target monster for Jordan Love? So those are the guys. Those are the conditions that you need for a rookie tight end to succeed. They need to not only be the best pass catching tight end on the team, but a top 2 pass catcher on the team outright. That's how you get Kyle Pitts. Evan Ingram, as a rookie, was top 5 because Odell Beckham Jr. hurt his knee 4 weeks into the year. So that's the formula. We're looking for guys that can actually be a top target right away. Otherwise, we're playing the sit and wait long-term game, which is what you're doing with guys like Michael Mayer.
It's Moose and Keith with Mark Malusis and Keith Irizarry.
Certainly is a Monday edition here of Moose and Keith with you. We're taking it right up until high noon, so about 10 minutes left to play with. Let's hear. Here's Jamar Chase talking about the loss yesterday to the Cleveland Browns. Take a listen.
Because I called their ass elves and we just lost to some elves, so I'm pissed on my part. I'm pissed on that. And like I said, man, we got missed opportunities. We didn't capitalize on that shit, and we lost. So that's how we lost.
With that said, you went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, the AFC Championship last year. You didn't beat Cleveland up here both years. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? It's 1 minute.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm holding it on me. I'm holding it on me. I'm not doing all that. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get my part and do what I can do for the team. So I'm pissed at other stuff.
Miles made a big point about, I guess, pulling some more material with all the elf stuff and all that. What did you make of all that? Did you drop a week lean up to it?
He just want to have some attention from each other. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. There's Jamar Chase. What is the logo in the center of the field? Why is it an elf?
It's that brownie thing. It's the remember it's the Cleveland brownie. I don't remember why, but
it's so terrible though.
It's nothing special.
No, it's terrible. Honestly, it should be like the dog pound. It should be like that's what it should be.
Yeah.
Should be like, I don't know, like one of those, what do they call it? Like I'm not great with
like
dogs.
A bulldog.
Yes, thank you.
Like a bulldog would be nice.
Yeah.
Slobber coming out of the mouth
with
a little bit,
milk
right?
Bone.
Yeah, milk bone would be good.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it should be. Should be
Ooh, Burns a good one.
That's exactly right. How about some of the quarterbacks that got paid during the course of the offseason? Daniel Jones got paid with the Giants. I mean, he is going to get relentlessly dragged for like the next 3 to 4 days after that performance last night. It was not all his fault. He was terrible, but still, he will. Joe Burrow, he got paid. The highest contract was at $219 million guaranteed. He was terrible yesterday. Lamar and the Ravens, you look at it, they were okay against the Texans. I think if they played a better team, they probably could have lost yesterday at home. But the Baltimore Ravens are going to be a work in progress with their new offensive coordinator, Tom Monken. Speaking of fantasy impact, how about the fact that J.K. Dobbins is done for the year? Feel bad for the former Ohio State star. J.K. Dobbins coming back 3 years ago, what it was, a torn ACL. Yeah. Came all the way back from that. And then yesterday tears his Achilles. He is now done for the year. So that's a huge, because J.K. Dobbins was one of those guys who were drafted in 6th round, 7th round, 8th round, whatever it might have been. But it was a guy that people were looking at that could be really productive at the running back spot, and he's going to be done for the year for the Baltimore Ravens.
So, all right. So first and foremost, J.K. Dobbins, hope you get well soon. I thoroughly enjoy watching Dobbins play football, and I root for him. From a fantasy standpoint, I used him in Fantasy Survivor last week. And sadly, my comment to my 12-year-old son, Austin, was, I got to use Dobbins before he gets hurt this year because he seemingly always does. So I got him in the lineup. I got a touchdown out of him. And there you go. And that's a big thing with these Survivor leagues if you do the individual player Survivor leagues. All right, now for the quarterbacks. Let's do this because I know we got about 3-4 minutes left in the show. What if we do Mo money, mo problems, or mo money, no problems? Okay.
Sure.
So we'll break it down that way. Let's start with Daniel Jones. And I'm going to go first on this one because I know what your answer is. I'm going to say mo money and mo problems. I think that Daniel Jones is going to struggle at times this year. And I think that he will end up getting he will turn into a punching bag in this city. And there will be many people calling for his jobs, whether it's right or wrong. And I think he's going to prove to be just an average quarterback that's getting paid too much. And again, this is based off of the money that they're getting paid, not whether or not he really throws 20 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. So I'll say more money will lead to more problems.
Yeah, I'm going to say no problems. I don't, listen, he's got to be better. His performance has got to be better. He stunk last night. The entire Giants team stunk. This was not a quarterback that all of a sudden threw that game away. The Giants were terrible as a team. They deserve to get embarrassed the way that they did. I know people are going to go out and just absolutely kill Daniel Jones. He was running for his life every time. I'm going to say mo money, no problems.
Okay.
Joe Burrow. To me, it's this one's easy. Mo money, no problems. I'm not worried about my guy in Cincinnati, even after a bad performance yesterday in Cleveland.
Easiest one on the board is the mo money, no problems. Exactly. There's no reason to listen. And I said this yesterday when I was sitting in my house with both of my sons at night. We were talking about kind of just looking back at the day that was. And I said, the only way this is a problem for Joe Burrow is if we're in week 5 and he's still struggling. He barely played he didn't play during the preseason. He got hurt almost right away. He'll be fine. Bengals will be fine. Mo money, no problems.
All right. How about Lamar Jackson with the Baltimore Ravens? I love Lamar. He's an unbelievable competitor. I'm still going to go on the idea, mo money, no problems. They won a game. They won a game ugly. Baltimore often finds ways to win games ugly. I'm going to go mo money, no problems.
I'll agree with you on that one. No problems here. Lamar Jackson, listen, maybe I'll be wrong and he's not going to get his first ever 4,000-yard passing season, although Zay Flowers looked really good. Odell Beckham Jr. looked kind of fine. And don't forget that the safety valve in the offense wasn't there. Mark Andrews wasn't playing. This offense will be fine. He will be fine. Ravens are good.
Geno Smith, mo money, mo problems, or mo money, no problems?
I'm going to say mo problems here. I think that Geno Smith may take a step back to the average QB that he was for most of his career. And they gave him weapons. He's got Metcalf. He's got Lockett. He's got Smith and Jigba. He's got maybe 2 running backs in Walker and Charbonnet. Yesterday, didn't like it. Didn't like what I saw. Didn't like the fear in his voice when he shouted that when Aaron Donald was coming after him. I'll say mo problems.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to say mo money, mo problems. Because historically speaking, you look at him, he's been decidedly average his entire career as compared to what he was last year, which was great. So I'll say mo money, mo problems. Jalen Hurts, mo money, no problems, mo money, mo problems.
No problems. All is good. He's great. He's the best.
Well, Hurts is great. I'd be a little concerned about losing both coordinators, offensively and defensively.
Agreed. I agree with you there.
That would be the concern I'd have in Philadelphia, is now getting used to different calls at times. I mean, that's a huge hit for Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles. But as far as Hurts as a player, yeah, I don't have any concerns about Jalen Hurts.
Quickly, who has more passing yards tonight, Aaron Rodgers or Josh Allen?
I think Josh Allen does.
Okay. Who has more receiving yards, Garrett Wilson or Stephon Diggs?
Garrett Wilson.
Okay. And which team defense gets more turnovers? The Jets defense or
Jets?
Yeah. I think I'm with you on all of those.
Yeah. I'd say Jets.
I can't wait for tonight.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. Brian Burns, behind the scenes, fantastic job. Keith, great job as always. We'll talk to you Friday at 11. Have yourself a Monday, everybody. Moose and Keith.